All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dropping the Mic podcast. With me today are two of the biggest golf fans I know, and definitely two of the biggest Tiger Woods fans I know, John and Henry Geiger. Gentlemen, I'm gonna start with John first. John, you're without a doubt probably the biggest Tiger fan I've ever met. Clearly a big week for you. What are your thoughts and emotions like coming into this week?
Oh, well, thank you for the kind introduction. Going into this week, I would describe it as a mix of a little bit of excitement with a majority of raw fear. I'm anticipating seeing how things are going, but given his past few comebacks, I am just in the constant state of concern that he will drop out before that fourth day, or that we'll see some winces and trepidation. So I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm going into it with crossed fingers.
Yeah, definitely we've learned that you definitely need to temper these expectations for these comebacks. We've been burned before. Henry, swinging it over to you. What are your thoughts on Tiger's most recent comeback?
Well, just to start off by saying I love the course. So, I mean, that's like no matter what happens, at least it's a...
Do you mean like love it for Tiger or just love it?
No, I just think it's an awesome course, and the wide fairways help.
Okay.
It is just an awesome course. And I don't know. I'm I'm super excited. And I don't know, but I think it feels different than like his other comebacks. I don't know, but like the hype going with his Instagram posts and his swings. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's got a different feel, and I'm worried, but I think he's going to do better than last year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's as has been in the past. There's a continuous hype train leading into his comeback. We had, the worst ball 66 at Medalist, among other reports in the past. John touched on his apprehension, which we're going to start negative. John, what are you most worried about in Tiger's game? He had the issues with the chipping in the past. Last year at Albany, he struggled with sort of a two-way miss with the driver. What's kind of the most concerning with his game to you, other than health? With just strictly golf-wise, what are you worried about?
Well, I think if you listen to some of the commentators talking about, his past chipping woes, I'm not really too concerned about that specifically, just because of the fact that his comeback has started from the green outwards. And so, working on the chipping, I expect that it'll be rusty, but that it won't be the bottleneck of his return. I think it's going to be course management and getting into the flow of a golf round. That's something that when you shoot your low practice rounds, it's not something that comes up, and once you're in competition, that's when you really start feeling it, and putting a full round in a full tournament together is the hardest part. So that's what I'm going to be looking forward to seeing him, if he stays healthy over the next year, starting to turn one round into four.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I was really surprised about, in a good way, was with his comments on Golf Channel today. Was he was talking about? He said I've got the. He mentioned, among other things, that he's got the hands to play at the highest level, which he said really the only question mark was whether his body was going to respond. But he seems fairly confident about his touch, and that he's been able to practice it in the past couple months. Henry, what are you most worried about with Tiger's game?
Well, I don't know. The drive, last year with the two-way miss, I mean, he was missing so many fairways on some of the widest fairways. Well, I guess not on tour, but some of the widest fairways, like in a tournament. And so I saw a thing on how his chipping, he's getting less hinge on his chipping, so it's helping him with like the around the green shots. And what scares me about his chipping is the grainy fairways of Albany.
Yeah.
And those into the grain shots that are super touchy. So that's what I'm scared about, is like because the greens are like built up at Albany, so chipping into the grain onto an elevated green, that's very tough. So I'm scared about that. And then, like once you miss the fairway at that course, like you're always hitting out of the sandy waste areas, which can be tough.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, and how about the wind ball? I mean, is anyone concerned about the fact that it'll be a windy course out in the Bahamas? Is the wind playing in the wind when you're coming back? Is that going to be an issue?
For me, I think he mentioned in one interview that he's been fairly confident in his ability to hit it in crosswinds. The main thing is, I think it's the distance control. We'll talk about his swing in a bit, but it seems like he's got definitely no shortage of swing speed, and I think it's definitely going to be a feeling out process, distance wise. There's probably going to be some balls sailing over greens possibly, and that's going to definitely going to be something he's going to have to work out. And I think if there's a lot of wind, which there can be in the Bahamas, that could exaggerate it. But I don't know, Henry, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, and like Tiger, he hasn't played in competition for 9 months, 10 months. He's like, he has to get used to the adrenaline again. So he's talked about how he sometimes, like, he doesn't know if he's going to hit it 5 yards or 10 yards farther when, like, the adrenaline is pumped into it. So he hasn't experienced that in a while. So I think distance control may suffer a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now we'll move. Yeah, as I mentioned, we'll move on to the swing. Just initial thoughts. It's definitely a shorter swing than we've seen from Tiger. As it's been commented on before, it's a bit more. He's getting the right elbow in a bit more. Not quite as much drop to his swing, but definitely the swing speed is still there, as showcased by the report that he was out driving Dustin Johnson in his round with Brad Faxon and the president. John, we have a decent amount of video evidence of Tiger's latest swing iteration. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it looks like he's kind of protecting his back. Did something happen with that in the last year or so?
That's the rumor.
Yeah. I think the thing that I always think of when I see any swing of his is reminding myself if it's in a practice round or a tournament, because over the years from his late 90s to all the way through 2016, every swing that you look at on the range is fairly different than when it's on the course. And so right now I have no expectations for how it's actually going to translate to the course. I think overall I like the general look of it, but I haven't seen enough to really even make a prediction as to how it's going to operate. Yeah,
for sure. Henry, John's clearly playing the wait and see game with his swing. Are you ready to make any clear-cut predictions or comments about it?
I think John made a good point. Although I do think it does look better than last year, even in like the practice swings he made, last year before the tournament. I don't know. It still looks stiff, and I mean, that's what you're going to expect with a back injury. But I agree with John with the just wait and see.
Yeah, I think I agree that it looks better. It seems slightly, his follow through is a bit more, a bit freer. That probably comes from, I know he mentioned that he had been playing with some pain last year at this event, and now it's strictly stiffness, no pain. I think his follow through is a lot smoother. Clearly, definitely, he's not 28 anymore. It's not quite as fluid as his swing has been in the past, but I think definitely encouraging. Now moving on from Tiger's game, we're going to move on to the some of the comments he made today, which have been reiterating his stance on the proposal to implement a reduced flight ball on tour. Tiger mentioned that concerns with irrigation and the agronomy that the ball is continually taking on golf. John, what are your thoughts on Tiger's stance? What are your thoughts in general on the possibility of a reduced flight ball?
No, I'm not saying that when I made comments about keeping the ball short back in 2008, to the golf team,
Yeah.
that I influenced Tiger in any way. I'm not saying that I set the trend, but it is something that I have always firmly believed, that with courses getting longer, it just makes sense to say, make the ball spin more, don't let it go so far, and it'll be more fun to watch because you like seeing pros hit these huge cuts and draws and working the ball and spinning it back and everything that we enjoy watching, and then they don't have to make larger courses. And I think that would be great for the game, and I think what he said about letting the amateurs juice up the balls, that's fine too. But I completely agree with it. I don't think it's a very controversial statement, and I think it's something the entire golf industry could and should get behind. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised by it, but I fully support it.
Yeah, absolutely, Henry. I know this is an issue that's right in your wheelhouse. As a big fan of architecture and historic Golden Age architecture. We're just going to get out of the way for you. What are your thoughts on a reduced flight ball?
Well, the game used to be a ball strikers game, and the reduced flight ball would like bring that back with these low spinning balls. Like Dustin Johnson can swing as hard as he wants, and he know that he won't hit that banana ball that they used to face in the 50s. And but if they reintroduce the reduced flight ball, it would, like John said, like if you like look in the recent years, balls spinning back has gone like when was the last time you saw a ball like rip back on tour? Like it used to be like a common thing, but now with like wedges, it just kind of hits and stops, and it just kind of makes the game a lot more boring. And for people like Tiger and like or for people like Dustin, they'll just bomb and gouge, and they don't have to worry about where it goes because it's not gonna have a big hook or curve. So it's just kind of boring, and it's just mindless caveman golf.
Right.
Where people like Koepka and J-Day can just have you looked at their swings? If they try to hit a balata ball, it would go 3 fairways over sometimes. I mean,
just touching on that, I think that's why the idea that when Dustin Johnson came out and agreed with Tiger about the reduced flight ball, I think it's so important that I think Dustin realizes that hitting it far used to be a skill. It was something that you had to work on, and it was an important part of your game. Now it's still true, but you get guys where it pretty much drags the big hitters and the small hitters closer towards the mean, where when everyone can hit it far, no one can hit it far. It would introduce so much more skill back into the game, where you wouldn't have Jason Day at the 2015 PGA just sodomizing dog legs.
Yeah, that was disgusting.
380 over corners.
It's dirty.
Just pretty much taking a dump on the history of golf architecture and setting it back 40 years. Now, other than
but what do you guys think about the clubs then? So we bring the ball back, and then they start designing clubs that hit the ball with so little spin that it doesn't. The balls, they design the ball so it can't compress the right way. It's not going to go as far. Okay,
right. But
what happens when it doesn't spin very much and they're still hitting every fairway now? I mean, do you bring the 460 limit down to 400 or 380 for the tour players, or what do you do there then?
Just for me, ideally, I think the ball is the biggest issue. In a perfect world, I would love to see the drivers rolled back a bit. I think, that late 90s, early 2000s was pretty much peak, where you had peak in terms of that's probably where I wish technology still mirrored. I think we had the greatest flexibility, and if you were a bomber, you had an advantage, but we could still use some of these classic courses. I would love to roll the driver back. I think that's definitely going to be a huge challenge, as will obviously the ball. But for me, I think that bridge needs to be crossed later, and the ball needs to be done first. Henry, what are your thoughts?
Well, what I don't get is like with the wedge grooves, they set a 10-year or they set like time periods. So at this year, you can't use it on PGA Tour events. At this year, you can't use it for a handicap, and then so there's like a system for years,
Right?
Which I'd love to see that with the ball. Like it can have this compression at this year and this tournament, and driver head. Like I'd love to see the driver head go down to 400 or 350.
But I think it's more than even just the driver. I mean, you talk about the irons that these guys are hitting now. I mean, especially some of these these long iron utility irons. I mean, I think they should say for the tour players, you can't have an iron face bigger than the size of your big toe. And it has to be made of one type of metal, and it has to be heavy. And then we can see who can really play golf. I mean,
but the driving irons
like watching.
The driving irons aren't the thing that are making people hit it 360. It's the ball and the driver head.
I think what John is getting at, and I think we're all in agreement, is golf used to be really, ever since Hogan, it's been a steady decline in what being a good ball striker got you. I think back in those days, the ability to hit it within, to hit it close meant so much more than it does today. Part of that comes from the distance issue. Now you have guys just bombing it, and they've, I think Dustin Johnson, I saw he had 6 long irons into par 4s last year. The skill has largely been taken out of the game in shot making, and I think what John's getting at would reinstitute some of that into the game. So I think we're all pretty much in agreement there. Moving back to the week at the Hero, John, what are your predictions for Tiger this week? I know pretty much the fact that he'd still be standing on Sunday afternoon would be a success, but what do you think will happen this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just praying that he'll finish, but I'll go out. I mean, I think it's easy to look at it and see that he is the highest ranked player by a few points. He's ranked 1,193, I think, in the world.
Yeah.
Next is Kevin Chappell at 32. Whoever that is, I'm gonna go out and say he won't get last. I think that'd be cool, because these guys are obviously on vacation, but they're healthy and they're all, essentially top 30 players except for this Chappell fellow. And so, yeah, I'll say don't get last, and that's pretty cool. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but
yeah, Henry, I think Tiger finished 15th out of 18th last year. Do you see an improvement on that finish? Do you have any idea for what he's going to shoot this week?
Well, he finished 15th, but he did have the most birdies at 26. So that is something that Tiger could. I mean, well, you said that he was playing with pain last year, so his bad holes were terrible, but he still made just a ton of birdies. And if his wedges are as good as they were last year, I could see a lot more birdies. And I've got good hopes for him this week. And I think playing with JT playing with JT was a good decision, not just ratings wise, but it'll give Tiger that, he's trying to, he doesn't want to be embarrassed. So he's got this extra motivation to play really well. And
he's playing with a buddy.
Yeah, but it does give him extra motivation to not just be embarrassed by the hottest new thing.
Yeah, I think he mentioned today that he's been playing with a lot of those Jupiter guys in the past couple weeks, among them, JT, Ricky, Berger. I know he played a practice round with JT and Ricky, actually right now as we're talking. So yeah, I think that sets up pretty well for him. Just for me, I think he shoots a pretty steady, 1 or 2 under on Thursday, and then probably I think he shoots somewhere in the 67 to 68 range on Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday. Truly anything can happen, but if he's healthy, I think a few under, and I think he finishes right around that kind of 12th to 13th mark. I'm pretty confident that he's going to beat around a third of the field. I think he's in good shape. He knows the course. He's pretty confident. I think he's going to be playing with a lot of adrenaline, and if there's no pain, I think we might even see a few fist pumps. I think we're gonna Tiger's gonna have some juices flowing, and I think that's enough to get us all excited.
I don't know. I think Tiger finishes in the top 9. I think he beats half the field.
Okay.
I've got high hopes for him this week.
Yeah, I can get behind that. So moving past the hero, finally, we're gonna quickly touch on Tiger in 2018. He one of the things I noticed was very hesitant to really move past this week. He was asked about the Ryder Cup next year, and he pretty much said he dismissed it. He said, "I'm not thinking anywhere past Sunday," which I think is actually a pretty refreshing outlook. John, in terms of 2018, what would be your ideal schedule for Tiger? Do you think a reduced 10 events? Would you want to see him play almost a full slate? What's the dream scenario for you?
Yeah, I don't want to see him play a lot of events. I want to see him play the right events and be prepared and healthy for them. So I think if he can play all 4 majors this year, that's massive, because that means he's healthy, at least through the PGA. And so then you're going to sprinkle in some events around those to keep competitive. You got to think he'll play things like the Farmers and the Memorial and all of that he's dominated in the past. And so if he can play at least once or twice a month, then that's what we want to see, because if he gets to the end of the season and he's still playing, you got to imagine he'll be at least competing out there with the rest of them.
Right. Yeah. I think that's definitely a good outlook. Henry, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, I think those 6-hour rounds, I think that's really good for his back. So I think we should see him there. But if he plays at Bay Hill, last year Bay Hill was just a total snoozer. But him playing there would really bring the tournament back. I think that'd be really fun. But what I love seeing about Tiger is how he used to play limited events, and the events he did play were the top-notch ones. So I'd love to see that again. And, because he wasn't winning the Sanderson Farms when he had, the 11-win season. He was playing, good tournaments. And so I'd love to see him, play the right tournaments and, don't play too much.
Yeah, I think that's both very, very solid perspectives. I think likely we'll probably see him at Torrey for his first event. I know he with his troubles in Dubai this past year, I think he's going to steer clear of that. It's very possible he will, but I think we'll see him at Torrey. I think he'll probably pick off a couple of his favorites, Riviera, Bay Hill, the majors. Just for me, I'd love to see him play a couple of the ones he doesn't, usually play. I think for, tournaments like the Byron Nelson, Greenbrier, some of these other events, Wyndham, some of these courses where, he doesn't have to bomb it and everything. He can kind of work the ball a bit and use some of his shot making. There's not as much pressure on him to bomb it with everyone else, and I think that would give him a great chance to really contend. I think a good schedule that keeps him active in the sort of 12 to 16 tournament mark would be a good number. I think I saw some people are saying he should be playing 25 events, playing himself back into shape. I think if he hits, if he just plays the courses he knows, he's Tiger Woods. He understands the pro game probably better than anyone in history. So other than that, I think we can put a bow on this. Guys, thanks for coming on. Any final thoughts for the week, John?
Final thoughts for the week. I think we want to see one fist pump, and one fist pump finish the event, and we'll call it a win. Let's see Tiger get healthy again. But thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah, Michael, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Well, gentlemen, we are all in agreement that it should be a fun week, and definitely a fun week to watch. So thanks for coming on.
Yep. Thank you.